Check, check. 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's go!
Oh, eat your heart out, Jon Ryan, right down the middle. This isn't kicking it with Ballsy. No, it's kicking it with Jon Ryan, the only Saskatchewan kid to win a Super Bowl and a CFL veteran who started his football career in Regina in the RMF and has helped build it to what it is today, giving back to the community and giving back to Regina Minor football. This segment, Kicking It with Jon Ryan, brought to you by another great guy and his family, Ben Garrow, Advantage Collision in Saskatoon and PA. They're the family shop that cares. They're the best in-class auto body repair shop, OEM certified, and ready to meet your needs in the quickest time possible. It's Kicking It with Jon Ryan. So how was the European vacation?
The European vacation was great. It was. I'd been there last month. I'd been to Germany last month for a little thing the Seahawks sent me on, but that was just a 3-day thing. This time I really got to experience more. We were there for 2 weeks. We did Italy, Austria, Germany. So I really got to see a little bit of everything.
What was your favorite?
See, my favorite town was a little town called Verona in northern Italy. And it felt like you were in a movie set. Like, it was just incredible. They had marble streets. It was just it was insane. The only negative thing I have to say about that is the food was awful.
I was in Verona, but I never ate.
Okay, it's a little region, and it's a culinary that's very specific to that region, and it's all donkey and horse. A lot of donkey stew, a lot of horse ragu, and it was just. It wasn't like 1 or 2 things on the menu. It was like 8 things on the menu, and I just couldn't get past it. I love animals, so I even have problems eating meat just to start off with sometimes. Horse and donkey is just one step too far for me.
Yeah, I don't know what that is too, because I like chicken. I have no problem eating chicken. I have no problem eating like a steak or a hamburger.
Sure.
You start getting me into lamb and elk and all that stuff. I'm not bison. I'm just now all of a sudden I know it's weird. Like I'll eat like pigs are the grossest animal, but I love bacon. But people start talking about this other stuff, and I'm like, no thanks.
Yeah, it's funny. Well, Sarah's like, I had a horse named Trigger growing up. I can't freaking eat one now, it's funny though, because we'll eat a cow, no problem. We'll eat a pig, no problem. But we won't eat, whatever it is. I guess our cultural thing.
Yeah. So we call this Kicking It with Jon Ryan, and appropriately because you are now in the women's soccer game. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yeah, we just launched our USLW team called the Portland Cherry Bombs FC, a little bit of a nod to the 90s female punk rock scene in the Portland area. We just launched it last week and had a great response, and now we have a men's team and a women's team in the USL, so we're pretty pumped to get this going. So
Cherry Bombs, how long does it take to come up with the team, to get it going, the concept on the jerseys, all that type of stuff?
Yeah, it's about 1 year. We started talking about last November, December, working around some names, and then you finally come up with the name, and then you have your colors and your design, and then you have to put together a staff. And we're lucky because we already kind of have the staff in place where we kind of have we run the Pickles, the Portland Bangers FC, and the Portland Cherry Bombs FC all with one staff. So we already have the front office in place to do all that, and now we just have to find a GM and find players. Just that minor detail. So you're
just the minor detail. So you're having fun with it. Are you hands-on? Are you a hands-on owner?
A little bit, my partner's a little bit more hands-on than me. We're kind of 50-50 on everything. I kind of say he's more the brains of the operation. I'm more the, kissing babies, shaking hands guy. I'm kind of more out front, and that's kind of the role that I like. I like being, on the field before games. I like being in the owner's suite. I like talking to the coaches before and after games, talking to the players, going around, having beers with the fans. That's kind of my role a little bit more than the some of the other stuff in the back offices that isn't as fun to me.
Yeah, and so that's the one thing I've there's always a silver lining in everything. I'm not gonna lie to you, I'm a pretty transparent guy. I got the 2 worst years calling Rough Rider games in my I got the 2 worst years in the last 20, 6-12, 6-12, and they're now in the Grey Cup. So it's kind of bittersweet for me. But there is a silver lining in that my son got to go to the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, and I got to, you're on the one side and you're like, you hate the Bombers, blah, blah, blah. What a classy organization. Like, you talk about it. Wade Miller shakes everybody's hand, like in the lower bowl. He goes around. I talked to him before the last game. He's on the phone making sure his seat's getting fixed and giving the guy a gift card to the Bomber store because it took him so long to fix the seat. He has everybody to his house for Thanksgiving supper. And then before their playoff game, he rented a food truck and was making them lunch himself. Hey boys, lunch on me when you're done practice. Like, that's cool. That's how I would picture Jon Ryan being like an owner and a president.
I mean, I've known Wade for 20 years. I used to room with him on the road, and I wish he was that nice to me when we roomed on the road. I remember going night before the game, having to go and get Dairy Queen for all the boys, on my dime. I wish they was that friendly back then, but no, that organization is just complete class. Wade Miller's an absolute great guy, a guy I still talk to occasionally. But yeah, I've known him for 20 years. We used to room together on the road, and I'm always indebted to that organization for drafting me. They took a shot on me back in '04. And I was happy to see Ethan go there as well, because I just know that organization does everything right, and they have since I've been part of them 20 years ago. So it's great to see they continue on with that, and as you said, the way it continues on doing the way that things are supposed to be done.
But things might not be done that way now, because Mike O'Shea is the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, and he could go to Toronto. Do you think Mike O'Shea joins his buddy Mike Pinball Clemens in Toronto? He's a free agent. There's a lot of free agents there. And Mike doesn't do this, I don't think, because I think he just does it. He doesn't ever renew a contract till it's done, and it just happened that Ryan Dinwiddie leaves for Ottawa. I was a little shocked by that. My original question, do you think O'Shea stays or he leaves?
I think it's going to be tough. He spent all those years in Toronto, and I know it still means a lot to him. He spent all those years with Pinner. Him and Pinball probably have a nice relationship together. I think at the end of the day, you have to kind of sit down and let's be honest, playing in Toronto is not the same as playing in Winnipeg. Right now, Winnipeg is one of the greatest CFL cities there is right now, and honestly, Toronto's probably number 9. So you got to weigh some of that out too. Whereas, you get to have a lot of fun playing in Winnipeg and coaching in Winnipeg. There's also a lot of stress that comes with that. So I think he's going to have to weigh those two things out. Pinball Clemens is a great promoter, a great guy. He goes out and gets his guys that he wants. I remember he was recruiting me after my first year in Saskatchewan, and he was absolutely rolling out the red carpet for me. He was doing everything he could. He was on the phone with me every day. He was just complete class, and I think that O'Shea is probably going to get some of that treatment right away here too.
Yeah, he's already had one conversation apparently, so we shall see. But it's funny how pro sports can change in an instant. All right. We got 2 coaches today. As we talked, they had their coaches address, and the one big topic that came out of that was the operations cap. Now, that was put in place back in the day when, under Craig Reynolds' watch, Chris Jones, who you like, and I have no problem with, he was allowed to spend like a drunk sailor, and he did. And I think the CFL overreacted and put in this operations cap. So the problem started in Saskatchewan, but both of those coaches say it should be eliminated. And it really is. We can change all the rules we want, John, and we've gone down this road before, but it's to the detriment of the game. That's where it needs to start, right there.
I think it's kind of bringing everyone down to the lowest common denominator by having that cap in there. If there's teams like Saskatchewan, teams like Winnipeg that want to spend, they want to do better, they want to fly their team nicer, they want to have nicer hotels, they want to have 20 coaches, they want to have more things for their players. They should be able to do that, in my opinion. We shouldn't hold them down because teams out east can't afford to do the same. I understand the salary cap. I'm in favor of the salary cap. But I think, you can only tie their hands down so much before you have to be able to let them be a little bit more free with their spending.
Well, this has been a problem with this league, though. I'm not spending other people's money. I am not rich. They are. But I disagree with you respectfully on this. These teams, MLSE has more money in their couch than every other CFL team. Bob Young and his partners have money. Palado in Montreal is a billionaire. Amar Doman's a billionaire. Winnipeg makes money. Saskatchewan makes money. The Thompson family has a lot of money. The Calgary Flames own the Stampeders. There is a lot of money. It's whether you want to spend it or not. And I think this league, that's the problem. They don't invest. I was talking to you off the air. This league doesn't even have an app. Minor League Baseball has an app. This is the second best professional football league in the world, and it doesn't have an app.
Yeah, as I've said a million times, you got to spend money to make money. And I think that sometimes that we're tightening the purse string so tight in this league that we're losing money and we're not realizing why we're losing it. In my opinion, I think that we have to spend on. I mean, as you said, it sounds like such a minor thing, but to not have a working app as the second best professional football league in the world is absolutely crazy to me. This is how you're going to get the kids. The kids follow games now on their apps. They don't go to their computers anymore even. They're following on their app, and now you're losing more of that generation where, they can't go and check the score. They can't be interactive with players, things that other leagues are doing to stay ahead of that curve. They just aren't doing it right now.
Yeah. Okay, let's get into the nuts and bolts of the game here. Let's go back. I don't know how much you watch, so I'm not going to try to throw too much at you, but that was a legacy drive for Trevor Harris. End of the game, making throws, took a couple of big pops. That's one. Listen, I think he's a great quarterback. He's got the stats, but he needs to win a Grey Cup as a starter to be considered a Hall of Famer. He'd even say that. And that drive saved that opportunity. Gets a play for one more week. That's cinema right there.
Well, he just took the first step right there. That's going to be a legendary drive in Saskatchewan for history if we go on and win it in come 5 days from now. And I think that Trevor Harris has been an unbelievable quarterback. I love the guy. We still talk every once in a while. I spent some time with him in Seattle. Personally, I think he's an absolutely great guy, and he's a great quarterback. And I think that he's going to be a Hall of Famer. As you said, it will definitely help the resume to have a Grey Cup ring on when he's getting inducted. I'll tell you that much.
See, I believe that, but I talked to a lot of former guys. They say you got to win a championship. A lot of guys I talk to say Kevin Glenn's not a Hall of Famer. I think he is. He stayed around long enough and played at a high level right to the end. Trevor Harris has stayed around long enough, played to a high level right at the end. And this year in particular, I can believe it or not, I can admit when I'm wrong. And I rankled Trevor. Trevor didn't like me saying that he should take a discount and have the Riders look for their next quarterback. Like his resume would say he's hurt lots. He doesn't finish the season, and this year he did. And he had with Mark Mueller had a great year. So I could say that I'm wrong. I still think he's a Hall of Famer, even if he doesn't win. But I think there's no doubt if he does win it, and he wants to go out like that. Like he has to have one on his. He's an alpha dog. He has to have one on his resume as a champion, right?
Yeah, and I think he will, and I think he's a Hall of Famer. And you know what? Really interesting is Kevin Glenn's case for the Hall of Fame. It's a really interesting case now you think about it. He was, I wouldn't say the majority of his career, but thinking back, about half his career he was a backup.
Yeah,
if not more. But the guy played like 20 years. Played for all 9 teams at some point. And I think just based on longevity, I think he has to be considered for the Hall of Fame.
Well, and who knows if he doesn't break his arm in that East final, they maybe win the Grey Cup in 2007. I mean, the Rider fans don't want to hear that, but he might have, right? Ryan Dinwiddie had a quarterback that game. So I think he's like Dan Marino's a Hall of Famer. I think Phillip Rivers should be a Hall of Famer. Like there's lots of guys like that. Okay, so this is interesting because Corey Mace looks like a genius, and he's going to be Coach of the Year, and rightfully so, although Jason Moss has been to the Grey Cup 2 of the last 3 years. These are 2 of the best coaches in the league. But Corey Mace looks like a genius, and he very quickly could have looked like a dummy. I think it went from bad coaching to worse coaching to the worst coaching. It went from you gambled earlier in the game down deep and scored a touchdown. I thought, that's some big balls right there. I like that from Corey Mace. Then you're at the end of the game, and if you quote-unquote trust your defense, I'm sorry, but you would have gone for it on 3rd down from the 5-yard line. But he kicks the field goal. Maybe you disagree. He kicks the field goal. So I'm thinking, okay, I don't know about that. And then he's only surpassed by Buck Pierce, who has Nathan Rourke rolling out all game and has the Riders on roller skates. They don't know what to do. You only need 1, maybe 2 first downs to close the game out, and they go away from that. And then the worst coaching is Mike Benavides rushes only 3 guys against Trevor Harris. You cannot, if there's one thing you can't do, it's give Trevor Harris time to surgically dissect your defense.
No, you're correct on some of the things you said. I think what Corey Mace just showed was a master class in clock management. in the CFL. And it, as you said, if it goes the other way, we're all saying, "What the hell are you doing?" But it didn't.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so let's give him that because he knows his guys, he knows his team, he knows what they need, he knows who's fresh, who's not. That all factors into all those decisions. And I think that in the CFL, as you can agree on this, you always have more time than you think.
Yeah.
A lot of guys, people watch the NFL all the time. Then all of a sudden they're like, "What are you doing kicking a field goal with a minute and a half left? The game's over." It's like, no, there's several more possessions potentially that can happen. So, sure, we're having a different conversation right now if it's not gone the right way. But as it looks, it was a master class in clock management and game management in the CFL, in my opinion.
Okay. But what about the other two? Because BC, let's be honest, BC handed it to him. You're going to give a handoff to a gimpy running back, Butler, who played well but through an ankle injury, and then do a delayed quarterback draw when the Riders don't play man, they play zone. They're watching the quarterback and they're just coming in here, crowding the box. Like, come on, roll him out. Put it in the best player's hands. He's the best freaking player in the Canadian Football League.
What my dad, Bob Ryan, used to always say is dance with who brought you. Okay, that means keep on doing what's working for you. Don't go out and do something different. And so many times in football, you see that all of a sudden they tighten up in the last 3 or 4 minutes. They tighten up with a 14-point lead or what have you, and they totally change their game call, and it changes the game. And that's what we saw there in the last 2 minutes. It's like, why are we getting away from what you've been doing all game?
Yeah,
dance with who brought you.
Dance with who brought you. I'll tell you what, the Montreal Alouettes are a lot different team with Davis Alexander. And I'm not going to lie to you, beat the Bombers kind of rubbed me the wrong way, doing the money sign, a little bit of arrogance there, but it was against my kid. But I will say this, I can't talk out of both sides of my mouth. I want a guy with personality. I want a marketable guy. I want a young and up-and-coming guy, and he is backing it up. If he wins this game, it's the greatest start to a professional football career in the CFL at the quarterback spot. 14-0 and a Grey Cup. And hold on before you jump in here. He's a legend killer. He slayed Kalaros and he slayed Bo Levi Mitchell. Can he slay Trevor Harris?
Yeah, I mean, beyond any game in all of the sports that I've watched my entire life, the Grey Cup game is the one game when anything can happen.
Yeah.
I've seen teams favorite all the way back to 89 with Hamilton was supposed to beat the Riders by freaking 21 points. Last year, Winnipeg was supposed to win by 21 points. You can look back at Grey Cups over and over and over again, especially in Winnipeg this week, when I'm assuming there's going to be a little bit of weather. Anything can happen in the Grey Cup. And so I don't know what the odds are right now. I'm assuming the Riders are going to be favored by
2.5
few points.
Two and a half last I saw, 2.5 points.
That surprised me because it's basically going to be a home game for Saskatchewan. There's going to be 20,000 plus crazy Rider fans in that crowd. In what I think is going to happen, because I think there's a lot of Winnipeg season ticket holders that are holding that ticket. They paid $100 for it. Now they have Regina people coming to town, offer them a $300-400 for it. I think there's going to be a lot of tickets going to Saskatchewan. But back to the quarterback thing, and I've noticed this more in the NFL too. Is kind of gone to the days of the Dan Marino and John Elway, the Joe Montana, the guys that throw a touchdown pass, maybe give a little fist pump and like this. These quarterbacks now have personality. They have swag. They have eye black. They have all this, towels and everything. They're doing the money side to the crowd. I feel like these guys start doing this in college, and now it's coming through to the pros. I see it with that Dart kid out in New York. He has all this swag, and it's just a different time. Whereas that would have been unacceptable even 10 years ago. You say look at Elway, look at Steve Young, look at all these guys, look Aikman, look at how they did it. That's how professionalism is done at the quarterback position. Play with a little bit of I've been there before type attitude. And these guys, I mean, it's kind of fun to see, and I think it's spilling over to the CFL, which I think is a good thing.
Yeah, it's a different time. There's no doubt about it. I sometimes got to wrap my brain around it. So I've got. I had Keith Willoughby, the dean, on my show this week, and he said that his computer says 69% probability that Montreal wins the Grey Cup. Okay,
really?
He's picking the Riders. Riders have never beaten Montreal in the Grey Cup. Lost in 2009 and 2010. If Davis Alexander was one,
here's one thing about that. I love when people do that. The Riders have never beaten Montreal. There's not one swinging dick on that roster that was on that game in 2010 or 2009 or 1976 or 45. It has nothing to do with anything.
I'm a media guy. I'm just trying to stir it up. Okay, but you're right. But here's where I'm going with this here. If Davis Alexander was 100% healthy, he's got a gimpy ham again. If he was 100% healthy, I think Montreal wins this game. I think that is the determining factor. Will he be able to get out of the pocket because the Riders have that great D-line? I think the Riders will win, and I think they will win 27-24 on a Brett Lothar walk-off field goal from like 45 yards. It's going to be a classic game. I don't care what anybody says, this is the last true Canadian rules Grey Cup, so enjoy it.
Well, enjoy it because I think it's going to be a great game. As you said, I want to talk about one guy, Micah Johnson.
Yeah.
Is this guy human? I played with him in 2019 in Saskatchewan. Then I played with him for a little bit in 2021 when I had my cup of coffee at the Hamilton Ticats. And I remember being in Hamilton in 2022, being like, this guy's still playing. Not that he can't do it. He's absolutely incredible. This guy's still doing it at this age. And now we fast forward like 4 more years, and he's still an all-star, doing it at the absolute top level at 37 years old in a position that's played by 24-year-olds.
Yeah.
The guy's incredible.
Yeah, he is.
I just want to say that because we were talking about that D-line real quick.
Another guy that's incredible is Logan Ferland. I know his teammate Jamarcus Hardrick's going to win the Offensive Lineman of the Year. Another old guy out on the offensive line who's doing a great job. By old, I mean 35, 36 in football terms. But Logan Ferland is the best offensive lineman in the Canadian Football League for his versatility, for his strength, for his everything.
And you love the guy. You love the way the guy came up, coming right through the Regina system, playing junior football. I remember him coming over practicing with us in 2019, then going and playing with the Thunder, kind of bouncing back and forth. And then you see these guys from the U.S. We're drafting guys from University of Oklahoma, drafting guys from these big schools to play O-line, and he just comes in there very quietly, outperforms them over and over and over again. And it's like, who is this kid? Who is this kid? And now we're seeing over the last 4 years or whatever it has been now that, you can come up through junior football in Saskatchewan, in Canada, and play at the top level and be one of the best, if not the best lineman in all of Canada. And it's really cool to see. And really happy for him because he's a great guy.
Since we're talking about players, what about your old buddy Jorgen Hughes? This could be his last run. I don't know. But he doesn't have too many left. And it's taken the Riders 12 years to get here. Who knows if they get back here next year. We talk about Trevor Harris, but what about Jorgen Hughes? If there's a guy I hope gets a Grey Cup ring, it's him, Mitch Picton, another guys that have been like Mitch Picton's been on this team because he's the ultimate professional. Like now he's playing special teams, running down the field. He made it on this team because he's not the best athlete, but he was the smartest dude. You could put him in anywhere. And then Jorgen Hughes, just a consummate professional.
And also just a great teammate. I used to call him Mr. Rough Rider because no one liked being a Rough Rider. No one loved being a Saskatchewan Rough Rider more than Jorgen Hughes. And I've known this guy since he was in high school, worked with him for years, was able to get him a tryout with the Seahawks. We were in Seattle for a little bit together. But there isn't a guy in that locker room that absolutely wouldn't run through a brick wall for that guy because they absolutely love him. And some people might say, well, he's the long snapper. It doesn't matter. He's one of the leaders of that team and one of the most beloved players on that team. And I would love nothing more than to see him with a Grey Cup ring. And then in Picton, man, just an absolute great guy. Not the greatest athlete, not the fastest guy, but one of the smartest guys in any room you're going to be in when it comes to football. And, he's got that Dairy Queen money in his back pocket, too.
Yeah, he does. Nice. He does. And I look at a guy.
I was talking about that.
I know. I look at a guy like you can always make hamburgers. The guy I picked him as my breakout player of the year, and if not for Nathan Rourke's brilliance, who will be the MOP and most outstanding Canadian, and there's no argument. A.J. Allen has had a great year. What a great football player coming out of Guelph. Here we go. Yeah. A ratio guy gets to live out his dream. He cuts his teeth as a core 4 special teamer, and now he's a starting defensive player. He does it the right way. I like that kid. And he was the guy that made the tackle on Nathan Rourke when they went with that phony draw play.
Yeah, that's great to see too. I love seeing guys come up through the Canadian system, play Canadian college. I think the Canadian college game has been crapped on by a lot of Americans, by a lot of even people in the CFL for years, and I love to see when guys come up through that. Guys like Ethan Ball playing the University of Calgary coming up. Yeah. Just seeing these guys really thrive after playing the Canadian college game it does my heart proud.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so I made my prediction. What do you got for a prediction? I got Lothar with a walk-off field goal.
There's no way this can be more than a 3-point game. I feel like
No.
it has to be a 3-point game. And I'm gonna go 31-28 for the Riders. I would love to see as well. Brett has had a bit of a tough season, and he's fought through it. Another guy that everyone in that locker room absolutely loves. I would love to see him get a walk-off field goal to end this season.
And before I let you go, so the CFL dropped the ball this year marketing with this whole Trump tariff thing. They could have, and we had the whole elbows up, which really wasn't elbows up. It was bullshit from politicians. But they could have had that mentality where they promoted Canada. Canada, this is Canada's league. This is truly Canada's league, second best professional football league, and they didn't do it. It was on a silver platter, and for whatever reason, once again, they didn't invest. They didn't do it. But I hope they market the shit out of this because they were allowing their players to go to the 2028 Olympics, which I think is a good move. Kudos to the CFL. Hopefully they can market it and use it to their advantage.
Yeah, I think it'd be a great opportunity just to promote Canada once again. As you said, I think they really dropped the ball and everything that was going on with that tariffs, and there was kind of a line drawn there for a little bit between the U.S. and Canada, and I would have kept on running with that as a CFL. As it turns out, they didn't, but this flag football thing could be huge, and I don't know how many guys from the CFL will be able to play, like actually make the team. I talked to our friend Michael Thomas, who's deep into the flag football game, and I was out in Vancouver with the Seahawks doing a flag football thing with him, and I was going to ask him how many guys from the CFL or how many guys from the NFL can make the American team, and he said probably not that many.
Yeah,
there's some DBs and some receivers, real fast guys on the outside that he thinks can, but it's just such a different game. And I'm not saying the other way around. I don't think these guys could jump over and play in the CFL either. It's just such a different game. And when I started to watch it a little bit more, I realized that it looks completely different than any football that we're used to if you've just watched the tackle game your whole life.
Yeah, it's so, but I think it's cool. But here's a question for you. We started this talking about being an owner. What kind of discussions are had when you're doing that? Like whether it's NHL, whether it's NFL, and it's even more extreme in the NFL because they're paying them a lot of money, or CFL. Like I want to promote my game, but do I want Connor McDavid getting hurt over in Italy? Do I want, I don't know, pick a player. Do I want, Justin Jefferson blowing his knee out for the Olympic team? Or do I want Tyson Philpott getting hurt or Nathan Rourke?
Yeah.
Like, do you know what I'm saying?
I think there's definitely some concern. If as I was an owner, I'd be concerned probably a little bit more if I had a guy like Patrick Mahomes making $60 million a year and I'm letting him go and play on some field that I don't even know what it looks like on a sport that he's not used to playing. I think kudos to the NHL because I think that's not even a conversation anymore. I think the players have spoken and they said we're playing in these tournaments, we're playing in these the Four Nations Cup, we're playing in the Olympics. Owners have no more freaking say because we're doing it, and that's also what we're starting to see in baseball now, which the WBC has been going on for over 20 years. I've been to every single tournament, absolutely love it, but it started off where very few players wanted to play. They didn't have that much pride. Whereas the last time, it totally took a turn with these players taking all this pride in it, and it's going to keep on building this year in March. And I think it's gotten to the point now where the players, just like the NHL, they're saying, you guys don't have a say anymore. Like, we're doing this, we're representing our country because we care. So it's going to be interesting because this is the very first international tournament in the history that NFL and CFL players have the opportunity to play in. So it's going to be interesting to see how that conversation works out.
It's funny, and I think the last one, the 13th man, end on baseball, but with a football tie-in. The 13th man 2009 game was tragedy. It went from a wedding to a funeral like that. But it went away. It went away. Nobody talked about it. Yeah, we talk about it once in a while, but they would have been having 30 for 30 docs. They would have been doing all that stuff if we marketed it right, but it went away. And people still talk about Gabriel's 76 touchdown more than they talk about the 2000. But you know what I think it was? I think Ken Miller, because he was Grandpa Ken, and it just went away, right? Like nobody, it's just like, oh, they felt bad for Grandpa Ken, and it was so that's why it went away. Where I'm going with this though is the Blue Jays lost to the Dodgers. Yeah, I don't know as a fan base how you ever get over losing that game 7. They were so close, like the bases loaded, throw to the plate guy out, or if he hits it half a foot longer, Clement, the game's over. But Dave Roberts, who he manages the Dodgers. It can't be that hard. That guy pulled Yamamoto early, saving him for game 7. And and then puts Pajes in center field, defensive substitution, who ends up making the big catch out there on Clement. I'm just saying, how do you get over it if you're a Blue Jays fan?
You look back at that series, because I'm here in LA, and I was at the local Mexican restaurant after the game, 2 days after the game, and they showed like the top 10 highlights for the Dodgers in the world. And I was just like, everyone was just like, you talk about a game of inches. Any one of those plays, any one of those 10 plays goes the other way, the Blue Jays are world champions.
Yeah.
So we look back, it's absolutely heartbreaking for the Blue Jays to lose in that fashion. And also going back to what you talked about 2009, and I think this is what ESPN does such an amazing job of, is these 30 for 30s, these other E60 movies they do. I wish that TSN would do something like that. Focus in on the Canadian stories. ESPN has even made a story about Terry Fox, who no one in the U.S. even knows who he is. Yeah. Instead of TSN stepping up and doing that 30 for 30 or whatever they want to call it. But, that 2009, that game should be talked about. Not that anyone in Saskatchewan ever wants to talk about it again, but it's something like that needs to be encapsulated in a story that kind of lives on forever.
Oh, I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you before I let you go. What's it like this week? Like, Super Bowl's the Grey Cup on steroids, but what's it like for the guys? You were in New York, so you were in a neutral site. So you're in Winnipeg. You're either the Riders or the Alouettes. What's it like for you this week? Because the Riders especially, they're new to this.
Yeah, it's to be totally honest with you, it's exciting. There's a lot going on, but it sucks. It absolutely sucks, because you always talk about every football game. It's just another game. We go through our routine. If we're on the road, we fly out the day before. We get in the hotel. We do our meeting. Now I think the Riders flew out yesterday. Yeah. So now they're flying out. They're staying in a hotel they're not familiar with. They're in practice facilities they're not familiar with. They're eating at restaurants every night, which they don't normally do. Everything feels different. They're going to have a way more media. Even though Saskatchewan has a ton of media at home, they're going to have times that by 10 leading up to the Grey Cup. Way more commitment to your time. Nothing feels normal that whole week. It was one of the most uncomfortable weeks of my life, doing it both times. The first time I felt comfortable was Sunday afternoon when I stepped on the field to warm up. I remember thinking, I was like, this is my comfort. This is the first time I felt comfortable in a week. So once you're on the field, it feels normal again, but that whole week sucks.
So for that reason, does Montreal have an advantage in the intangibles? Because they've been, like, a good chunk of their team's been there. Not Davis Alexander, but a good chunk of their team, their head coach, their GM, they've been there before. The Riders haven't been there in terms of, O'Day's been there as a player, but it was a long time ago. You know what I mean? Like, strategically, does Montreal have an advantage there with how to handle it?
Yeah, I think partially. I remember going to that second time when we went, we went 2 years in a row, and it felt way more comfortable. It felt more comfortable because we knew exactly what to expect. At the same time, sometimes ignorance is bliss. You know what I mean? Ignorance is bliss. And that first time we went into it wide-eyed, bushy-tailed, just kind of looking around, being like, wow, we're going to freaking kick some butt. We don't know what's going on, kind of with that kind of attitude, and we ended up winning that game. Whereas the second time where we were a little bit more comfortable and kind of knew our surroundings, knew what was going to happen every single day is the game we ended up losing. So I think it could work both ways for the guys.
Yeah, we don't want to talk about that loss.
No, we sure don't.
That's right there with 2009. Like that's right there with 2009.
It could be considered, aside from the CF in the U.S., it could be considered one of the worst losses in the history of sport.
Oh, I think it is.
I think it might be worse than Scott Norwood.
I hate to rub it in, but that's one of the worst. That's one of the worst in sports.
I mean, Scott Norwood's missed field goal. That's one thing, but it's got to be up there with one of the most painful. Mookie Betts batting through what's his face at first base for the for the Red Sox. The old Buckner play. Some of these are just plays that live on forever, and that's going to be right up there, unfortunately, for me and my teammates.
I won't bring that up. Hey, thanks for your time, man. I appreciate it. Let's enjoy the Grey Cup. It's going to be will be a classic. It will be a classic for sure. Thanks, buddy.
All right, man.
Athletes aren't built during the season, they're built here in the off season, where real progress happens. At the Den Sports Performance and Agility Center, they don't just train, they develop. For athletes ages 13 to 17, they offer team packages and individual group training with up to 5 weekly sessions of your choice of dryland or strength-focused work. Every program blends strength, agility, balance, mobility, speed, and recovery with a focus on durability that most programs overlook. Because showing up on game day means staying strong all season. Every session is coached by a certified speed and strength specialist and focused on long-term athletic success, not quick fixes. Flexible programming, real results. The Den Sports Performance and Agility Center is where serious athletes level up. Book your spot now at thedenyqr.ca. Another gospel according to Ballsy. This one's going to go out for my friends over there at the Den. Go check them out. You just saw the video there. Great gang there. And my son's going to start training there. He'll be doing defensive back training and some flag football stuff for people that want to have their kids trained by a professional football player who just, has just passed through the RMF high school flag football and now playing for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. That's why I'm repping the shirt. So, yeah, the Den, thanks to them for getting on board and supporting this podcast. Lots to talk about. Let's start with thoughts and prayers going out to Anton Ammonrud and his family, the quarterback of the U of S Huskies. Had missed a lot of the season because of health issues, and we found out that he's battling lymphoma and in hospital and going through treatments, and our thoughts and prayers, my thoughts and prayers out to Anton and his family. Guy had 14 touchdowns, no interceptions, didn't even finish the season. And I don't care what team you cheer for in U Sports or more specifically Can West. Everybody's a Husky fan now, in my opinion. This team is rallying around Anton Ammonrud. And, they play Queens coming up here on Saturday in the Mitchell Bowl with a chance to go to the Vanier Cup against the winner of St. Mary's in Montreal. That game will be played November 22nd at Mosaic Stadium. First time ever in Regina. So thoughts and prayers to Anton Ammonrud and his family. Okay, lots to talk about CFL-wise. Rough Riders and Alouettes continuing to work out for the game. I'll break down how I think it's going to go on Saturday just before the game gets going on Sunday. A reminder to join us for the Our Balls Are Bigger post-game show after the game as we will break down Grey Cup 112. The last official, I know people don't like hearing this, and they're like, oh, save your hyperbole and all this other BS. JC Abbott being one of them from 3 Down Nation. It is the last true Canadian rules Grey Cup, so enjoy it. It's going to be a classic. It's going to be a close down-to-the-wire game. You can bet on that. So we'll talk about that just before the game. But, Keyshawn Johnson, as I tape this, was not a real part. Like, the day before, he was a participant in practice, but not so much in Thursday's practice. And so they're just trying to see if he will play. Apparently, Davis Alexander, though, according to Tyson Philpott, had his best practice all year. And Davis says his hamstring has responded remarkably. Same with Jason Moss, his head coach. Now, I don't know if that I trust Jason Moss too much. He's the guy that said Davis Alexander was going to play in the last regular season game against Winnipeg, and then Davis didn't play at all. And I think Jason Moss should have been fined for that. If we're going to have a league that's trying to get betting money, we can't have coaches pulling that kind of stunt. Or those kind of stunts. Of course, he wouldn't do that in a Grey Cup, would he? He wouldn't say his quarterback's 100, this is the best he's ever been. He's looking great. Of course, he's going to play coy. But anyway, like I said, I wouldn't trust what Jason Moss has to say with regards to his quarterback. But, I mean, the guy's a dog. He's unbeaten, 13-0 as a starter. If he is close to 100%, and nobody's 100% this time of year, if he's close to 100%, he will he'll be a formidable foe for Trevor Harris and the Saskatchewan Roughriders. Hey, let's start with some positives. The CFL doing some great things. That Grey Cup All Access show following 3 members of the Riders and 3 members of the Alouettes, including Trevor Harris and Davis Alexander. Episode 1 drops on Friday, so that's outstanding. I don't know exactly where it drops. Hopefully it's on TSN. I'll get into their coverage of things in a minute, but I didn't see that it's on any network television, but maybe it is. That'd be great if it is. But kudos to them. That's the kind of marketing you need. That's the kind of programming we need to get people into this game. Also, CFL partnering with Football Canada to grow flag football. A major investment in flag football. The league now founding partner of the senior men's and women's national flag teams. This will allow for CFL venues, facilities, infrastructure, and relationships to support Football Canada's continued operation of a program ahead of the 2028 Summer Olympic Games, where Canada will look to qualify for men's and women's flag football. I don't know that we'll see a lot of CFL players and a lot of NFL players. It's two totally different games. Mike Thomas has even mentioned that from Football Sask. You'll see a few guys, but I don't know that you'll see pros en masse playing for Canada and the United States. But it's great the CFL is helping to invest in that. That's one of the things they dropped the ball on under Ambrosie's tutelage. They were funding flag football in the fall. I could speak specifically in Regina, but they're like, no, we're not funding it. And the NFL swooped right in. So instead of having kids wearing BC Lion jerseys, they're wearing Detroit Lion jerseys. So it's good under the new commissioner, Stuart Johnston, that they've decided to go with some affiliation with flag football. It's a growing sport for sure. It's not real football, but it gets people initiated into the sport of football, and there's nothing wrong with that. And we have the biggest one here in Canada, right here in Regina, where I come from. All right, let's get to the CFL awards. Jamarcus Hardrick, Offensive Lineman of the Year. He's been up for it before, but he wins it as a member of the Rough Riders. Kudos to him, good guy. And he gets a chance to win a Grey Cup in Winnipeg, where he won two Grey Cups with the Bombers. He gets a chance to do it on Sunday. The Jake Goddard Memorial Award going to the community service, player with the best community service and such, touching his community, Logan Furland, who's one of my favorites from the Saskatchewan Roughriders. Fourth year in a row, the Riders won it. Whoever the bozo politician that handed the award out called him Freeland twice. Maybe confusing him for Christiana Freeland, who is, what was it, she in finance or something with Trudeau's government. Anyway, it's Furland, not Freeland. So he wins the Jake Goddard Award. The Special Teams Player and Rookie of the Year, Trey Vavel of the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. No surprise there. The Most Outstanding Defensive Player, I thought Jalen Hutchings of the Stamps should have been nominated and won, but Matthew Betts, a deserving winner, as he's back in the winner's circle for that. And the first Canadian to win MOP in the CFL, quarterback, since 1969, when Russ Jackson did it, it is Nathan Rourke, for a quarterback, that is, I'm talking. He's the MOP and Most Outstanding Canadian, Nathan Rourke of the BC Lions. No big surprises there. For whatever reason, I forgot about this, they don't hand out the Coach of the Year. If I remember correctly, it's usually done during the winter meetings, wherever they hold those, like Banff or whatever. So that's when it'll be... It'll be in the off season when it's awarded, Moss versus Mace. I think all the awards should be handed out once the playoffs are done. Like once the playoffs are done, and the award should include the playoffs, not just the regular season, but the playoffs as well. So they may have the Coach of the Year award right, to be honest with you. Lastly, as it relates to the award show, why is the award show not on one of 5 TSN channels? Like, why do I gotta jump through hoops and go to CFL.ca and put in my first and last name and put in my email and who's my favorite team? Not hard, and I'm still appreciative I've got to see it, I guess. But why am I jumping through hoops? I should just be able to turn on the TSN is the major broadcaster of Canadian football. TSN, because of them, this league has still been able to survive. So I tip my cap to TSN, okay, for that. But if you don't treat yourself importantly, then nobody's going to take you as a credible league or important. And that's exactly what the CFL and TSN aren't doing. They're not taking themselves seriously. Like, why is that not on TV? If you don't respect yourself, nobody else will. That's where the Bush League comes in. I shouldn't have to jump through hoops to see this thing. We should jam as many rowdy fans in there as we can get. It sounded like a morgue in there when the awards were being handed out. Like there should be people hooting and hollering and wearing their, I don't know if fans were allowed. I know the one I went to in 2022 here, fans were allowed in the Connexus Arts Center. They didn't allow, I don't know if they filled it up with fans, but there were fans allowed, I believe. Fans should be allowed at this thing. It just sounds like, and the most outstanding Canadian, Nathan Rourke, the most outstanding player, Nathan Rourke. Like, come on. What are we doing here? What are we doing here? Make it big. So in the next TV deal, since they're starting to do some things right, in the next TV deal, hopefully they've got a second broadcaster, and hopefully the draft, all of it, the combine, most of it, and the award show, all of it, are on TSN or, I don't know, CBC, or if they get a big American TV network involved, which maybe they won't in 2027, but I think they're going that way. That's why the rules have all changed. Yeah, that's what I'd love to see, because that's what we need. It's not the rules. It's not the yardage, 55-yard line. It's not the 15 or 20-yard end zones. It's not the goalposts at the back. It's all the other things. Like, how about invest and get an app? We've got owners are rich in this league. They are rich. Palado's a billionaire. Doman's a billionaire. Bob Young with the Steel Company, they got money. The Ottawa Sports and Entertainment Group, they've got money. The Flames and the Calgary, whatever they call it, Sports and Entertainment Group, they own the Stamps. Edmonton, the Thompson family, God rest Larry's soul, but they had money, or they have money. The Riders and the Bombers make money. MLSE, they've got more money than everybody combined. What are we doing here? What are we doing here? You get me an app. Let's go. Let's go all the way in and make this big. And then I saw this on 3 Down Nation. Where is it here? I wanted to comment on this. It was a poll that's been released, and apparently new poll shows more Canadians want CFL to differentiate itself from the NFL. They oppose shortening the field, among other things. Well, no shit, Sherlock. There is no way they're getting more fans with these rule changes. No way at all are they getting more fans with these rule changes. They're sacrificing the game that we love, the game that is beautiful, the game that is the secret sauce that's different from every other professional football game, American, Canadian rules, like that we know in North America is what I mean. They're sacrificing that for these made-up fans that don't even exist. You really think for 1 minute everybody's going to flock to the stadiums and watch in record numbers because they've moved the goalposts back and shortened the end zones? No. It's all about what we saw tonight. Put the award show and make it bigger, make it better. Have Nickelback, have somebody play at it. Let's make it big. Make the draft big. Have it at the Casino Regina. Hey, you're a Ticats fan tonight. Here's a Ticats jersey and here's 5 drink tickets. Have some fun. Like, do that. Make it big like you're doing this all access show. Great. There's some really good things they're starting to think about. So let's keep it going. Don't just dip your toe in the water. Let's go. So that's what I have to say about that. The last thing I have to say here is about what's happening in the coaching carousel. Will he or won't he? Will Mike O'Shea leave? Won't he leave? Fans snapped the picture of him and Bo Levi Mitchell in the Toronto airport. He's coming home. Back to Winnipeg, Mike O'Shea, after being at home in Toronto, where he grew up in that area, and like in Ontario, and he's a former Argo royalty, friends with Pinball Clemens, meeting with Keith Pelly, the president of MLSE, and they all chat and talk, and they're trying to offer him a job. Rumor is head coach and something in player personnel, but who knows for sure. Then all of a sudden Hamilton wants him as their GM. Mike O'Shea wants the coach. He's not going to be a GM, so Hamilton's off the books. Now, Toronto's interesting. His mom's still there. He's Argo's royalty. He's good friends with Mike Pinball Clemens. I wouldn't automatically just discount that, but Ryan Dinwiddie, who it's kind of goofy he left too. 2 Grey Cups in 4 years, and he's gone to another team. It's kind of one of the problems we have in the CFL. Everybody's moving around, coaches, players. You can't, should I buy a jersey? Like the identification with your team is kind of nomadic. And I get it because it stands for cash flow low, the CFL. You can't blame these guys for wanting to make a buck. So if they throw money at you in Ottawa, you go for it. And he's a proven winner, one of the best coaches in the league, probably top three. I'd say O'Shea, Dinwiddie, and Jason Moss probably right there. And Corey Mace wins on Sunday. He'll be in the mix too for that. They'd be in the upper tier of the coaches in the CFL right now. But yeah, I honestly don't see Mike O'Shea leaving. Is Chad Kelly a Mike O'Shea kind of guy? Not the Mike O'Shea I've been kind of hearing in the back rooms from my son. That doesn't seem like a good marriage there. So do they dump Chad Kelly? Maybe they do. And they go with Nick Arbuckle. Does it matter to Mike O'Shea to live in a football city or a city where nobody gives a shit about your team? Because nobody's going to give a shit about your team. They aren't. I'm sorry. Unless the MLSE really doubles down and really promotes this team like they did on a couple of occasions, nobody cares about the Argos. If they didn't go when Doug Flutie was the quarterback, and they haven't gone when you won 2 of the last 3 Grey Cups, we're into the 4th one now, but if they don't go then, they're not going for Mike O'Shea. Nobody goes to a game to watch a coach. And I like Mike O'Shea. I think the world of the guy. I think I've only interviewed him twice, never met him personally as a father now with a kid on the team, but I think the world of the guy. He is the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, as Rhett Cramdy says. He has created the culture. He loves Winnipeg. I know that. He loves living there. He's got a beautiful home. Had the boys over for supper one day. So he loves Winnipeg. His family loves Winnipeg. He's right there with Bud Grant as the storied coach of that team. From the vibe I got before this Dinwiddie thing went down, he's coming back. That's the vibe I got through my son. That was before the Dinwiddie announcement. So of course he's got to take a look at it. But he doesn't want to rebuild his team. He just thinks they need a few tweaks. So does he want to start all over again in Toronto? It's not a horrible team in Toronto. They still got some great pieces. And in the CFL, do you ever truly rebuild? You just reload. So I get that, but I don't see him leaving. It just doesn't seem like he's a Winnipeg kind of guy. I know he's from Ontario, but he's just a hard-working, roll up your sleeves, sweatshirt, hoodie, shorts wearing guy on the sidelines. He's just that kind of guy. I don't know. I would find it really weird and goofy if he left Winnipeg after having quote unquote one down season of 10-8 after going to 5 straight Grey Cups. You have the best organization in the Canadian Football League right now, with all due respect to the 2 teams playing in the Grey Cup. The Bombers have shown over the last 5, 6, 7 years they are the class of the league. So I don't know. I'm not saying it's 80-20s coming back, but I just don't see him leaving. I think, honestly, he doesn't need my advice. I think it would, and people will say, oh, you're just saying that. You're just saying that. And, hey, you're just saying that because you got a kid on the team. Hey, do I want Mike O'Shea to stay there for my son so that my son doesn't have to start all over again in terms of learning a new staff and proving himself to another staff? Yes, I do feel that way. Absolutely. Because I want my kid to be under the same system and get to learn and grow. And they told him in the exit meetings, without giving too much away, that they are very pleased with him and they got some plans for him. So if the coach leaves and he takes the staff with him or whatever, then that's pro football, baby. I found that in the media game. If you're not somebody's cup of tea, you're out. Doesn't matter how good or how accomplished you are or your resume, you're out. So that's what my son would be facing. So as a guy who went through it myself, of course I want Mike O'Shea to stay for that. But I also think it'd be goofy to leave. You got the best team. You got the best setup. And you're going to go there. How much can they pay you? How much can they pay you to go there with this stupid operations cap, which they still haven't nixed unless the commissioner, as I tape this on Friday, if he says, yeah, we're nixing the operations cap, which I don't think he will, if he does that, okay, different ball of wax. But if he doesn't, how much can you pay Mike O'Shea? Okay, Mike, now you got to sell your house in Winnipeg. I think he owns his house. I don't don't think he rents it. So you got your house, you got to sell your house. Now you got to go to Toronto. So, hey, you might make an extra 150,000, but really, is it that much when you're having to pay more to live in Toronto? And he would know. He's an Ontario guy. I don't know. I say it's about 65-35 he comes back. That's my strong opinion on this. I don't think it would be the right move for Mike O'Shea to leave. Take Ethan Ball out of the equation. I just think he's a perfect fit for Winnipeg, and I think somewhere along the line he knows that. He's a smart guy. He'll do the best for him, obviously. He's smart taking this meeting. Okay, so I'd like to thank Jon Ryan for joining me. We are going to, I'll tell you what, this is going to be a coin flip game, and we'll break it down position by position coming up in the next installment of Ballsy Uncut. Thanks for checking us out. Tell all your friends, please like and share the show.